Two chronic liars pretend to be who they are not just to have an affair solely for their interests. Austin is on the phone with his woman, Benita, who has supposedly just returned from abroad. He ought to have gone to pick her up, but he's still at home. So he has to lie to her that he's only 30 minutes away from the airport and will join her soon. When he drops the call with her, he quickly puts a call through to his friend who comes to the front of his house with a car. It is the car that he uses to pick up Benita. Benita is doing a live video on her way back from the airport. She says Africa is so cool and she cannot wait to explore. She mentions that her boyfriend, Austin, is also so cute and she would share how they met each other very soon. When they get to Austin's house, he welcomes her to his mansion. But Benita is far from impressed. How would he call this house a mansion? A house as small as this? She was expecting something larger. Austin quickly says he has a bigger house somewhere else and he only lives here because it is only him. It is time for him to open the door to the house. He inserts the key into the keyhole when Benita suddenly screams. She says he's molesting the door by opening it with a key. Benita says, over there in London, the door opens with a face ID. She then goes on to say once she wore makeup and the door was unable to identify her, so she had to go back and return in 3 days to avoid molestation by the door. Then, when she returned, she apologized profusely to the door and made peace with it. Austin is beyond surprised. Did she make peace with the door? Yeah, that's new. They enter and Benita comments on how hot and small the house looks. Again, he says it is a small house because he was single till he met her, and now that he has met her, they would be moving to the big house soon. She then asks when they will be getting married. Austin says very, very, very soon. They'll get married and he cannot wait to wife her and make her the queen of his kingdom. He leads her to their bedroom and on getting there, Benita is barely impressed. Austin asks what she thinks about the bedroom and she just simply says it is nice and proceeds to ask for the robots that will take her load. Austin reminds her that this is Nigeria and there are no robots, so he excuses himself and goes downstairs. While he's downstairs, Benita screams in excitement and grabs her phone. She puts a call through to her friend and tells her that she has hammered. She says Austin is very rich, lives in a large house and drives a posh car. She admits to just giving him LAMBA and he too is gullibly believing it. Austin on the other hand puts a call through to his friend and tells him the baby is loaded with both cash and good body. He tells his friend that Benita used to live in a house built with gold when she was supposedly still in London. His friend tells him she might be lying, but he says he cares less. All he wants is to get a UK visa through her influence. It is time to eat and Austin makes fufu and egusi for Benita, who says she cannot eat it. She says it looks like food fit for deities and asks Austin to get her food like chicken, peri-peri, flanels, and like that. Austin says such foods are unavailable and he has never even heard of some of the foods before. He offers to cook noodles and fried eggs for her instead. So while Benita eats noodles and fried eggs, Austin enjoys his fufu and rich egusi soup. Benita can however not stop salivating at Austin's food. Later that night, when Austin has slept, Benita goes to the kitchen quietly and starts eating the fufu and egusi soup she initially rejected. While commenting on how tasty the food is, Austin wakes and does not find her in bed. He calls out to her and she quickly returns the pot of egusi soup, pretending that she came to the kitchen to get water. Austin walks into the kitchen and finds her standing by the fridge, holding a bottle of water. He asks if she's fine, but she's not vocal with her response because there's a piece of meat in her mouth unknown to him. She signals that they go back into the bedroom and they both leave the kitchen, even though Austin is suspicious. The next morning, Austin wakes her up to help him make breakfast as he's about to go see the governor for a business meeting. Benita is pissed and says the way he woke her up is rude in her books. She considers Austin's request for her to make breakfast a joke. When she hears the governor is Austin's business partner, her eyes light up and then she starts to talk about how she misses the Queen of London, Queen Elizabeth. She says she used to go over to play with her. Austin believes this hook, line, and sinker and asks her not to bother with the breakfast anymore. When Austin leaves, Benita's friend Amara comes over. Amara comments on how big the house is and Benita says Austin is very rich and has even gone to see the governor for a meeting. Amara laughs and comments on how her friend changed her name from Chichi to Benita. She then proceeds to ask what she would do if Austin finds out that she's been lying to him. Benita says by then she would have been married to him. Amara says what if he chooses to divorce her? Benita doesn't have an answer and Amara advises her she better get pregnant for him so that at least if anything happens there will be a child involved, making it difficult for Austin to just leave her like that. Benita reasons with Amara. Meanwhile, Austin also goes to see his friend whom he begs to come over to his house and pretend to discuss with him while mentioning big figures in billions, just so he could impress Benita. At first, his friend declines, saying he doesn't even have much money to start with and that it is absurd to be a fake person just to impress the babe. What if she finds out? Austin says by the time she finds out, he would have gotten his visa and everything will be soft from there. Still, his friend refuses to help. After so much persuasion, he agrees to help just this one time. On hearing a knock on the door, Benita hides Amara somewhere in the sitting room before proceeding to open the door for Austin. On seeing the empty bottles of expensive drinks on the floor, Austin loses it and flares up. Why would she drink his expensive drinks? Not even one or two. Why would she? She asks why he's getting upset over peanuts that she can afford. She then breaks a wine glass, saying she breaks stuff when she's angry. Angry, he goes upstairs into his room. Benita then calls for Amara to come out of her hiding place and quickly leave the house. Austin is sitting, staring ahead when he suddenly hears Benita's footsteps. He quickly pretends to be on the phone with a business partner and starts to call a huge amount of money. Benita comes downstairs and starts to act all snuggly with Austin, who recoils. He says he doesn't want to be touched and goes into the room. She goes into the room and asks if he doesn't like her enough to touch her. Austin says he's only waiting till they get married, but Benita says she wants to be touched and that he should make love to her. Even though he says he doesn't want them to be intimate yet, Benita forces him to. Amara comes over the following day to give Benita a gun and a packet of cigarettes. Benita asks what she is to use the cigarette for, and Amara says it is to give further proof that she's a London babe. Benita rejects the gun but accepts the packet of cigarettes. Austin comes home to see Benita smoking. He snatches the cigarette from her and says she's a wife material. Hence, no woman of his shall be caught smoking. Benita says he should count himself lucky that she isn't holding a gun, else she would have blown his brains off. Later in the day, Austin's friend Samson comes over to Austin's house, pretending to be a rich billionaire. Over a meal, Samson and Austin discuss, calling crazy huge figures that cause Benita to choke on the food she's eating. Samson asks what part of London Benita lives in. Unable to give an exact street name, she quickly comes up with a fake location. She wants to ask Samson what part of London he has visited when Austin quickly interrupts and brings up another monetary conversation. After the meal, when Samson is alone with Austin, he tells Austin that Benita is lying about who she really is and might just be playing the same game with him. This leaves him with something to think about. Later that night, Benita is on a call asking whoever it is on the other end to kindly ensure that her animals, the parrots, the monkey, and her fish feed well. When she's done with the call, Austin is forced to ask whether Benita owns a zoo. She says no, that she only loves animals like regular rich people do. Because of his suspicions, Austin enters Benita's room one day to see if he can at least come across a visa or something that will give her off as a true London babe. To his greatest surprise, he doesn't find anything save for an ID card bearing Chiamaka Maduka as Benita's real name. He is beyond stunned. He confronts Benita, who confesses that she's not from London and that her real name is Chiamaka. She then says she lied because she felt that she wouldn't get the man of her dreams if she didn't package herself very well. Austin too sits her down and tells her that they have both been lying to each other. He does not own a multi-million naira company, and even the car that he drives up and down belongs to his friend. He doesn't own the house they both stay in, as he's expected to vacate the house in 2 months. He doesn't even have a job to his name. Benita doesn't believe him. She says he's only saying all of those because he's upset and that when he calms down, he will debunk his claims. When she sees that Austin is not joking, she calls her friend Amara to tell her that her plans have been spoiled too. Amara says they're a good fit for each other. She however advises that Benita carries out a pregnancy test. Benita does so and it turns out she's pregnant. On hearing the news, Austin faints. The next day, he asks Benita what will be done and she says she has no idea. Austin suggests an abortion and she says nothing will make her commit such a sin. Austin maintains that the baby was conceived out of lies, but Benita cares less. He wonders how she doesn't mind birthing a child for a man who doesn't love her. Benita says that is his business, but she cannot abort any baby. At his friend's place, Austin freaks out helplessly while Samson tries to get him to calm down. Austin says he cannot calm down as Benita would neither abort the baby nor leave his house. Samson advises that Austin and Benita both try to make things work, as she isn't even a bad person. Austin says he's not willing to try anything out and that all he needs is for Benita to leave his house. He promises to frustrate her and get her to leave his house. Austin is cooking in the kitchen when Benita comes in to also cook. He starts to sing about a pretty liar and she also makes a snide remark about a fake businessman. They both banter with each other till they get tired. She says she told ridiculous lies and he gullibly believed it, showing how much of a fool he was. Austin asks her to leave his house, but she says she has nowhere to go until they both agree on how to co-parent the baby she's carrying. Tired of her, Austin goes out and returns home dead drunk. Benita is worried, but Austin snaps at her not to touch him, but to leave his house instead. As a last resort, Austin meets up with his female friend and pleads with her to come live with him for a while. The plan is to make Benita believe that Austin's friend is his girlfriend, and then perhaps she would get frustrated and leave his house with the pregnancy. After initial reluctance, Austin's friend agrees to the plot and moves in. Benita is surprised at first that Austin is supposedly in a relationship, but she later acts dismissive about it. She helps herself with the food she cooks. Austin comes downstairs and sees her swallowing solid food in large lumps, and he shakes his head at how local she can be at times. However, later at night, he steals into the kitchen and starts to eat the food she cooked. She comes in and catches him eating. After teasing him about being a big rat, she says he can help himself with the food after all. She also stole his fufu and egusi soup on the day she came. They laughed about it and Austin compliments her food, calling her a good cook. Austin is laying in bed when he hears Benita and his friend Angela engaging in a squabble. Benita is beating Angela for calling her big for nothing. Austin tells Angela that she shouldn't have body shamed Benita. Thinking he is taking sides with Benita, she lets the cat out of the bag and says he was the one who asked her to come and help him chase Benita out of the house, only for him to start taking sides. She angrily says she's going to leave the house. The next evening, it occurs to Benita that she hasn't seen Austin all day. She goes into his room only to find out that he has been sick all day. She cooks for him and feeds him, after which she helps him with medicine. While Austin sleeps, Benita dozes off watching over him. He wakes up to see her sleeping on the couch and he wakes her. She says she dozed off unconsciously. Austin then says she can come and sleep on the bed, after which he thanks her for everything. The next morning, Austin wakes Benita up with an appreciatory breakfast in bed. He says he wasn't expecting her to be so caring, even though they weren't on good terms. He then goes on to ask what the inspiration behind her whole facade was. Benita explains that childhood was difficult and that her father passed when she was 12, leaving her and the other 5 children to her mother. The struggle to help her mother went beyond her power, and so she had to move to Lagos with Amara to hustle. She came across him, saw that he was very interested in her, and decided to take her chances. Austin explains that when he met her, he just lost his job, and on seeing supposed pictures of her in London, thought he had found a catch. Benita then says the pictures were purely photoshopped, and she doesn't even have a passport. Austin asks that they start all over again, and they both introduce themselves with their real names. Austin as Austin Okoli, and Benita as Chiamaka Maduka, Chichi for short. From there, they start to bond and get closer. It is time for Austin to attend an interview. He's nervous. He says he wants to land the job for the sake of Benita and their unborn baby. He asks if she would go on a date with him if he gets the job, and Benita says with or without the job, she would go on a date with him. Benita then assures him that he will land the job. True of her words, Austin lands the job and takes Benita on a date.